Okay, so we're still morning? Yeah, so good morning, everyone. My name is Adjoa Mensah. I am a fourth-year doc student at UNLV. I am a PhD candidate, and that just means that I'm just collecting data and working on the last 2 chapters of my dissertation, so hopefully we're done this year. My research is focused on technology integration in elementary school, and specifically how teachers use technology in transformative ways. My background is that I am originally from Canada, so I taught there for 15 years. I taught all grades, but I taught grade 5 and grade 8 the most. I was a dual language instructor, so that meant that I taught all subjects in French and English every day. So that's my background. All right, so hopefully you got a chance to join my pear deck. If you didn't, the code in that corner is how you can join, and you would go to joinpd.com and enter that code in the corner, and then you can join my presentation. This should work, okay. Oh, it works. All right, good. Okay, perfect. So this morning, Dr. Latson-Billings talked to us about bringing technology to the center to support our students. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about something that was a little bit in line with that. She talked about how our kids we need to focus on growth, and that schools are at the center of that growth. So today we're going to be talking about harnessing technology to support social emotional learning. Has anyone heard about that before? Can someone tell me what they know that is or what they think that is? Oh, I see a hand over there.
Because emotionally, you're all messed up inside. So just think of chaos. How can you work through chaos? It is very impossible. So you have chaos within, emotionally.
Perfect. Anyone want to add to that? And then over here. Okay.
Then the social side, right? Like our students are surrounded by other students, and obviously their thoughts are going to be concerning what's going on with their other students, and that can start impacting their emotions. If they feel like they're not getting along well, they need to feel like they're also socially competent to be ready to learn.
Perfect. Yes, so you guys, you're all correct. It's about emotion. I heard the word emotions a lot. Emotions play a big role in social emotional learning. That word is in there, and it's thinking about how kids regulate their emotions and express their emotions and how they're even aware of them. So let's see if this works. Does it work? So one of the ways that we start to think about social emotional learning or think about it in our classroom is we do a check-in. So it's December. How are we all feeling? How stressed are we? And you can fill it in the pear deck if you want and drag your icon to where you feel like you are today or this whole week. Now I'm gonna have to get her to show the responses. I don't know if she can hear me. I can't do it from this, so it comes from my screen. Mm-hmm. Pardon? I need to show the responses. Yeah. So you should see that option on there, yeah. And we can see how everyone's stress is. Anyone want to guess where everyone is? Okay, so there we are, okay? So as you can see, we're pretty stressed, right? So as a teacher, starting my lesson with a check-in like this tells me what I'm going to be doing for the rest of that lesson. If I were to start a lesson right now seeing that, am I going to go do a super complicated lesson with reading chapters and chapters? No. That's not where they're at today. Okay, so that's one of the first ways we start incorporating SEL in our instruction is we're checking in on how they're even coming into the room for the day. So what are we going to talk about? What is it? Why does it matter? And how can we incorporate it? So, social emotional learning, what is it? So it encompasses several competencies. Self-awareness, which is that like focusing their attention on self-compassion. Self-management, so that is managing their emotions and building emotional regulation skills. Social awareness, so their empathy for others and themselves and the relationships that they have, and building their capacity, so that centers a lot around problem solving. Relationship skills, compassion for their friends, putting themselves in their friends' shoes. That ability is not always natural for kids. Sometimes we have to support them to do that, especially at certain ages. And then, of course, decision making. You know, have you ever had that student where you're like, was that the right decision, so-and-so? You're having a SEL moment with them because you're giving them a chance to reflect on whether they made a right decision about something. So what's the connection with mental health? Though it's not exactly mental health, it promotes positive mental health, sorry. Okay, so basically when they learn some of these competencies, they feel emotionally safe and they can develop skills that are important in K-12 and after as well. So, thinking of SEL, I'm sure you can imagine that there are different competencies happening at different ages. So what does everyone think? What are you thinking the SEL competencies might be from K to 2? And what do you think they might be from grades 3 to 5? And you can enter it in the pear deck or you can tell me verbally, whichever one you want to do.
I think that from K to 2, they're more selfish, just saying they focus on themselves. And from there, they go in the next level, being more aware that there are other people besides themselves.
Yep. So let's see, can we see her? Oh, there we go, good. All right, so knowing how to manage, kinders have no filter. Yep, absolutely. Let's see if we can scroll. Can we scroll the responses? Thank you. Puberty, relationships, hormones, absolutely. Having friends, caring about themselves only, caring about others, understanding that they are not perfect. Yeah, perfectionism is a big one that starts from grade 3 to 5. Egocentric, becoming self-aware, self-conscious, identifying emotions, managing more in-depth friendships, absolutely. Difficult for younger children, knowing how to think before they act. Kids don't worry that much. Experiences anger, frustration, empathy, exploring, playing, learning. 3 to 5 will include complexities. Older students are able to manage and reflect. Awareness, great. No hitting, that's a big one. All right, so I think we have a good idea of what that all kind of looks like, right? Okay, so in those early years, they are playing with friends, they're starting to have conversations, starting to build independence, they're testing boundaries, and they're starting to understand their feelings when they're embarrassed, when they're happy, when they're sad, and things like that. As they get older, they're starting to really start to place importance on friends. So peer relationships become really big as they get towards ages 9 and 10. Moral development, like morals, you know, what's rules and regulations, they're dealing with that as they get older. They're more affectionate with friends, they're sharing more secrets with friends. They're really starting to center their lives around their friends in that age. So why is social emotional learning important? So the research tells us that students who have social emotional learning skills can have better academic performance. It benefits them physically, and it helps them be better citizens to their employers and to society. So research tells us that 65% of children are going to do jobs that don't even exist yet. And part of that is them having strong social emotional learning competencies. So if you look at this image here, where does social emotional learning fall and why? And you can just tell me, this is not a Pear Deck screen, but you can just verbally tell me, where do you think those competencies would fall and why? Mm-hmm.
Learning how to communicate politeness and proper introduction on technology.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to add to that? Where do you think those competencies fall in this image and why?
Collaboration. A lot of
Absolutely.
technology has now separated self from the other. So collaboration is lacking big time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have a couple more in here.
I would say it would fall under critical thinking and problem solving, learning how to solve their problems, how they're feeling, how to deal with other people, how to deal with life.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
I would say it falls under, I'm sorry, I forgot my glasses. I would say under number 13 and 14, if I'm reading it correctly, that's persistence and adaptability.
Absolutely.
Because, and the reason I say that is because once these students get to know their true selves and their true emotions and everything, then they'll figure out what works well for them and everything, which will improve the overall academic experience.
Mm-hmm, yep.
I also see it in 16, social and cultural awareness, as well as cultural and civic literacy, because they're going to be a part of a community. They're a part of a community in a classroom, and they're a part of a community in their households and their neighborhoods. So I see that very important.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of the, yeah, it's all, we do the purple.
Mm-hmm.
I see the orange in my school.
Mm-hmm.
It's the blue that we're missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of the blue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And when the blue's missing, you feel that in the school energy, the school community, and how things are functioning on the day-to-day, for sure. Anyone else? Did I miss anyone else? Okay. So, and why does it matter? It's also in our standards, right? So there's language around SEL in the ELA standards, and there's language about it in health as well. So it's something that we have been called by our state to also incorporate and embed in our instruction. So what does it look like when we use technology with SEL? So one of the challenges that we kind of face as teachers is time, right? So sometimes you will have a great SEL program sitting somewhere that you're encouraged to use, but that's another thing that you have to go and find and plan and maybe do a whole bunch of modules on this thing. Maybe you don't have time for that. So one of the things that technology can do is it can give us a way to embed SEL activities into our existing lessons and saving us time. So give us the opportunity to embed reflections in our teaching, check-ins, feelings, things like that. So technology is also cost-effective. A lot of these softwares and programs are free for teachers. So we can just grab that tool and embed it in the different things we're doing. It's interactive as well. A lot of students can interact with the technology. For example, you guys are interacting with my slide today. People who are verbal can tell me, but people who don't want to talk, they get to type. So that's giving our students different ways of communicating what's going on with them to us. And we see it in real time so that we're able to adjust our instruction or ourselves for whatever given time and moment. And so we want to also capitalize, right? We're capitalizing on how it can enhance learning, it can augment learning, we can do virtual reality learning with students and things like that. Some games incorporate some virtual situations that we can incorporate for our students. So we want to capitalize on that. Those things are out there. Thank you. Not only that, we have students who respond better when there's technology involved. Not all, but some. So we want to make sure that we're getting everyone. So for example, what does it look like? So this is for our kinders and our little guys, little kiddos. So we want them to think about their feelings, but we also want to do a little bit of literacy. So one of the great ways to do that is technology. Right now on YouTube, many books are there already online. So when we have a book that we want our kindergartens to interact with, but they can't read yet, we can do an audio book. So that's one way to use technology. But we want them to respond to the book. So I love Google Slides. So I like to add slides where they can respond to the book. So I took a screenshot of a scene and I gave them a question. Now they're not reading yet, so what the technology allows me to do is I can make an audio of me reading the instructions to them. So if you see the little speaker there, I don't have my computer push play, but it has me reading those instructions to them. So something like this can be used in a center, can be used on a smart board, or if you're using something like Google Classroom, you can assign this to a student. So that A, they're doing literacy, but B, they're also working on a social emotional skill, which is understanding and identifying feelings. So there's another page I chose to do the same thing. You could do that for every page, you can do it for every other. There are many ways that we can use that. So this is something that you can do with like our really young students. So another tool that I've been kind of working with now because has everyone heard of Jamboard before? Mostly? Great. So Jamboard's becoming extinct, right? Next December, they are phasing out Jamboard. So if you have jams or things like that, they're not going to work. So this is one of the new tools that are replacing it. It's called Miro. Oh, I don't have my computer. Okay, we won't do that. So basically, I was going to show you it live. But basically what it is, it acts like Jamboard. So Jamboard used to have tabs that you switched across at the top. Miro has frames. So as a teacher, you're just going across different frames, doing different interactions with your student. So for example, in this Miro, first I'm checking in with where everyone's at. Then we're listening to a story. Then they're typing me responses to that story in the different columns. So I can see if they're understanding or not understanding right in the moment, but also the questions are about feelings, so it's small print, but basically it's asking them, why was this person mad on this page? Why was this person sad on this page? So we're identifying the feeling and identifying what is contributing to that. So SEL is there, but we're also doing some literacy as well. So especially for our special ed kids, tech can be a really valuable tool for them to demonstrate their learning. Sometimes they have fine motor issues, things like dysgraphia, where they can't write, or they have perfectionism and they're not able to produce. And so one of the things that works for them sometimes is to use technology to express their responses using text-to-speech, or they can record. So something like Flipgrid is a recording software. It's free. And so you can give them a prompt, and I would show you, but I don't have my computer. Basically, you can choose different prompts for them to react to. So for example, and you might be able to scan that and see it for yourself. But basically, the first one says conflict versus bullying, for example. So maybe you're teaching grade 5 and you're seeing that that's an issue in your class. So maybe you're going to tell everyone to look at this conflict and bullying scenario and record your response. And so that's what this software does. It has a screen that has a record, like it says record. And when you tap it, your camera opens and the kids can record with the camera or without. So this is helpful to students who are not ready to write something for you. Or if they're not ready to come up to you in person, you're able to see how they feel, see their reflections, or they're also able to participate in whatever lesson you're doing and respond to it. So this is another way that you can use technology to facilitate SEL in your class. So one of the ones I really, really like to do, especially when you're teaching the older students, is something called Mindful Mondays. So Monday is the day that kids generally come to school. Super stressed, it's beginning of the week, things are due, whatever happened at home on the weekend. So what I would do is the last block of the day, we would do Mindful Monday. And on Mindful Monday, they have a book, and they can write whatever's stressing them out, they can draw whatever's stressing, they can do whatever they want in that book. I don't see it, it's their private property. If they're younger, they can record, they can do whatever they want. So part of that is encouraging them to let stressful things go and bring in positive problem solving, positivity, complimenting themselves, gratitude, and things like that. And then one of the other things that I really like to focus on, and this is especially useful in for special ed students, is breathing. Students are not always able to regulate their emotions in the moment and verbally tell you something. So one of the ways to use technology is do breathing videos with your students. It helps them to regulate their emotions in that moment, and the more you do it, the more they learn to do it on their own. And after that, you will see that sometimes you'll see like a student sitting in the corner breathing and calming themselves, and then they can say, I feel this or I feel that. So mindfulness or mindful videos, like stretching videos, pausing videos, whatever videos that cause them to be mindful, to relax, to stretch, to let go of stress are another way to use tech to support SEL. Okay, so connect to your own life. What's something interesting you learned today? And how could you use one of these things in your classroom?
I work in the SOD room. So one thing I would implement is the breathing because, you know, certain kids with learning disabilities, they do have emotional, you know, problems, and they don't have the language to express how they feel. So using those like 5-minute YouTube videos, I think it would help, and they also would like it. Even at my school where I work, Matt Kelly, Tuesdays they do yoga in the morning. So the kids like it. They get yoga mats and gives them a moment to just relax and breathe before they start learning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Anyone else want to add? All right, let's look at our responses. Oh, anyone there? Yes. Oh yeah, you can draw or type. Oh, there is? Okay, so you can tell me, okay, yeah, oh, I don't know, today people were, in my last session they were typing it. But anyways, so yes, using the videos, using breathing, my students use box breathing a lot. So we would just, it's like a square, right? Like you breathe, hold, breathe, hold, breathe, hold, breathe, hold, breathe, hold. And so the more you reinforce that, the more they start to do that themselves. I'm sorry, I couldn't see your answers. But does anyone else want to share verbally? Yes.
I really like when you said to have the check-in in the morning, but I would do that like every day because it seems like I can't read their faces, their emotions. So yeah, if they can't receive any instruction, then there's no point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I liked how you talked about the Mindful Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about how my kids feel emotionally, especially like since that's the start of their week. And I do have a lot of like students that have IEPs and learning disabilities that draw anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I could start incorporating that so they could get like their jitters out.
Yep.
And then maybe I could probably see them focus a little bit more. So I'm probably going to start incorporating Mindful Mondays in my curriculum.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot of positive results with that. And then of course the last way overall is to use something like Pear Deck or Nearpod, because I've been checking in with you through this whole presentation, and you can do the same in your lessons. You can use Pear Deck or Nearpod, they're both free, and they have slides that are already prepared with social emotional learning templates and slides. And so you can just throw them into whatever lesson you're doing for the day and different parts, and then you're ready to go. So thank you.